Hello, everyone, and welcome to Good Stuff. My name is Kevin Bille, and I'm glad, as always, that you could spend time with us today. I'm happy to announce today's guest, Donnie Jones, head coach at Stetson University. Donnie, it's great to have you.
Kevin, great to be with you.
I really appreciate you being here. And I'm really excited to hear more. I'm very fortunate, I guess, to have known you for a while. I was thinking about that earlier today. It's probably been 14, 15 years since I started coming down to Florida camps. But it's been great staying in touch with you, and especially what seems like more since I saw you guys at Ohio State this year.
Absolutely. That's been awesome.
For the listeners that don't know your path up to this point, can you kind of give them a history of kind of where you've been at and what you're doing now, obviously?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Kevin. First of all, it's great to have the opportunity to be here with you, and I've cherished our relationships over the years. And I know we met through a mutual friend in Larry Scheidt, who's well known in that Cleveland area, but I've enjoyed our relationship, and I know we got a lot of similarities with our passion for changing people, for leading people, for growing people, and that's kind of been my mindset for many years. And I think it all started for me. I played basketball at a small college, NAI. It was Pikeville College at the time, but it's UPike right now, University of Pikeville. And played there from West Virginia originally. Had a really good career there in college, and went on to be an assistant there when I got out. And that started my basketball career. I was fortunate to start right in college, and went on to Marshall University, grad assistant for a couple of years. And then there was a guy that came along named Billy Donovan that got the job at Marshall. He kept me, and I became one of his assistant coaches when he first started there. Spent 2 years there, went on to University of Florida, along with some pretty good coaches. Anthony Grant, head coach at Dayton now. At the time, a guy named John Pelfrey was with us, who's at Tennessee Tech, but was the head coach at one time at Arkansas and South Alabama, and myself. So went on there, was there 11 years with Billy Donovan. We played for 3 national championships, 2002, 2006, and 2007. Won back-to-back, probably the ones people most remember, in 6 and 7. And then I went on back to be the head coach at Marshall University. Was there 3 years. Went on to the University of Central Florida. Was the head coach there for 6. After that stint, was with the Los Angeles Clippers as a scout for a year. Wanted to get back into college, assistant coach at Wichita State for a year. And then on to Dayton for a year this past year before I become the head coach here at Stetson. Here in this 2019 and 20 years. So it's kind of been a full circle, kind of took off, went to the Midwest, circled around Kevin, and came back here to Florida to build a program at Stetson.
Well, that's great. Yeah, you definitely had a lot of experience and been around a lot of quality individuals, not just basketball coaches. I don't know that I knew you did play at the NAI, so there's a similarity there. And I think one of the other things that I can sympathize with you is the 2 jobs that I had, the one for 10 years and the other for 6, both were really bad when I got there. So I don't know if I was just the only guy dumb enough that they would hire, but it seems like a lot of the jobs that you've been a part of once you've left Florida, there's been a rebuilding, if you will, or however you want to look at that. And so that's the one thing that I'm really intrigued with when it comes to talking to you. And for our listeners, we're going to have high school coaches, we're going to have business people. What are some keys for you when you're building this? I know we talked about this before, and you having some steps to that. Is that something you can share with us today, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what, Kevin, it has been, it seems like, I've been a head coach at 3 programs, and every time I've walked in, it's been a losing situation. And a lot of times when you do take jobs over, you've taken them over because it hasn't been good before, or it's been really good and the guy left and become a head coach somewhere else. So, the scenario for me has always been a rebuild. Went to Marshall, they'd had 7 straight losing seasons. I went to UCF, they'd had numerous losing seasons. I came here to Stetson, they'd had 19 straight losing seasons.
Wow.
So all these have came into with a culture that has not been successful at the moment. So with that, I sit down, I've been fortunate to be around some really great people, some great coaches. I've studied coaching, leadership, and mindset, champion mindsets, and why teams are good or dysfunctional, and and I come up with some things I felt that kind of fit my philosophy and what I'd seen through other programs. Even when I was with the Clippers as a scout, I got a chance to see what it was like to be behind the scenes and build an organization, because they went through a transformational uh, situation here when they had the three superstars that left the Clippers,
Yeah.
with Chris Paul and those guys. So they had to start over. So I was in that mix when that was happening. So it was great to just see some of the best. And one of the things that we talked about that I think is most important before you even take a job is, and you walk in, is obviously you're going to evaluate it. Right? That seems very simple. That's the first thing, evaluate it. So how do you evaluate it? And I think not only the job when you take it, because you see what you see, but you don't know what you don't know until you get there. And you lift up the hood and you look underneath and you're like, wow, okay, this is where we got to begin. So with that, you evaluate everything. I think when you get there, you evaluate the players, number one, who's playing for you. What's their story? You interview people. I learned that a lot from the Clippers, is really through trying to get intel on these kids, teachers. You treat it just like the first month that I've taken these jobs. Is I go in, I get to know the kids, I evaluate them individually, get to know the teachers, hear their story, academic people, other players, how they feel, and you come up with this intel about, do these kids fit where you're at? Is this the right situation? If so, what can we help them with? Or what do we need to begin to make change if possible? All right. So the first thing we always try to do is really evaluate, the staff that was there before, the academic, everybody in the organization is going to control your success. Is you're going to have to evaluate that and make sure you're aware of where you're at. It's almost taking a temperature check, okay, of where the temperature is in the program, to kind of get a feel where there's need and where there's focus that needs to be put in your program. So that's the first one.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me interjecting here, I think it's important probably to convey that, this might be a basketball program that we're talking about, but it's so applicable to other facets in life, whether that would be running a business or, some type of operation on your end. It seems like it translates. And then I guess the second thing would be, with that, what would you say to the people that maybe don't have the patience or are looking for hey, what's the timeline on this? Because there's probably not such a thing, is there?
Yeah, well, I think when you walk through the door, first of all, I mean, you're going to have to decide, do I make that change immediately? With some players, I did sit down and was honest, because it's really a people business. It's a player business. If you're in business, it's people. And if you're in this, it's a player, but these players are people. And I think you got to sit down and be real, talk about how you feel, talk about what the plan is with your culture, and you just really see, do they fit? Is this the right place for them? And you know what? We're here to help kids, not run kids off, but to help them. And so you got to get a plan together individually, for the person or the player at the time, to see how they're going to fit with what you're trying to do, but also lay out, the blueprint, which is, something we'll talk about later, of what the expectations are in this
Right.
culture.
Right. Totally makes sense. So you've talked about that evaluating. Where would you personally go next then in that framework of building it?
Yeah, well, I think after you evaluate, I think the next thing, which is vital, is you can't do it alone. So it's going to be your staff. You hope coming through the door, every situation, you try to build a staff around it that you feel is going to fit that environment. So coming through the door, you usually have a feel for who you think you're going to add, and then you decide to add some more pieces as you get there. But your staff is going to be a voice of you. And I think that you got to make sure from your staff who you're hiring fits the culture, fits the understanding of what's going to be required. And you have to make sure that you're being honest and evaluating the people you're bringing through the door so they fit the culture. They may be in a situation where they may have to fundraise. You're coming into a place like Stetson, small school, not like where you coach. There's going to be a fundraising aspect to it. So it's important that I got somebody on my staff that's equipped, who's fundraised before, who can understand that concept. So just not just coaching, that's a part of it, but you got to be able to do other things. Are you good with academics? Do you understand how to be an academic advisor to help out with things that we may not have the same focus as a bigger school with as many people? Can you help? Are you equipped? So you're looking with your staff to make sure they're equipped for the things on this job. And I think that's vital coming through the door, because a lot of energy, a lot of focus, and in a situation where you got to be a self-starter and you got to be able to really invest in people here when you're changing a culture. So staff would be number 2 for me as we continue to build a new culture.
And then what are some things, I mean, before we move on maybe to the next one, that you're doing for that cohesiveness of that staff?
Yeah, well, we're constantly, communicating, number 1. It's the single most important thing, is how do we talk? That's a constant thing for us, through group chats, through constant messaging. So with that, through my staff, they don't know what they don't know as well. So it's important for me to communicate what I expect from them. And also, I kind of outline maybe 10 or 12 things I want from them pretty much on a daily basis, not necessarily like a to-do list, but what I want them to put their focus on. And so with that, I give them direction. And I think that makes it easier, instead of just saying, hey, I wake up today, I'm a coach, what do I do? I recruit. Oh, okay. No, you're responsible for 4 guys academically. You got to touch these guys every day. You're recruiting these 10 guys. We want you to really focus on offensive tendencies. So
Right.
we defined your staff's roles early on, and then as time goes by, they grow into the roles. And I think with that, you play to their strengths. I have an older guy who's a great coach in Brendan, sir. So his roles to be the main recruiter would not be his strength right now. His roles is for him to really focus on offense and coaching and experiences. And he's the old wise guy on our team. I don't like to use the word old, but he's the wise guy, and he's almost like a mentor to myself, and has been for 25 years. So to have a guy like that on our staff, he coaches to coaches some days, and we let him play to that role because that's his strength.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I love this next one. I know you're going to talk about building trust, and I don't care if that's me as a husband, a parent, a coworker, whatever my role is, coach, boss. I think, getting that trust is key. So talk to us a little bit about that, if you would, please.
Yeah, and building trust is key, not only with your staff, but your administration. That's with everybody in your culture, your players. And so building trust, there's one key word I think of when you build trust, and it's consistency. When you want to build trust with people, it's being a consistent leader. I think people got to see the same guy all the time. They got to know they can trust you. And it takes time to build trust. Trust is the human currency that can't be bought. It's something that's earned. And I think it's so vital with how you trust people and how you build your trust, especially everybody walking through that door is new to you. And you're making an impression every time you see them, with your words out of your mouth, with the actions that you perform, and how you approach everything you do, from your staff meetings to how you meet the people on campus to the administration. And I was just listening to somebody here today, and they were talking about in trust is being able to handle your emotions when things aren't going well. That's when trust is really evaluated. All right, even when it's going well, but also when it's not going well. And what kind of person are you in the storm? It's how trust is built or broken. And how do people see you in the storm? How they see you in those emotional situations, and how are you learning to control that? That's important in the steps in building trust, I think. And we're in that right now, Kevin, as we talk about. We're in a time of uncertainty, and we're in the storm right now. But it's how we're going to perceive that now as a leader. Are we being resilient in the storm? And when you take over a program to build, every day's uphill. Every day. You're uphill on a treadmill running at 100 miles an hour, and in building programs, you feel like it never stops. So how are you going to be resilient every day is how you'll build trust.
Yeah, that's really good. Talked to somebody the other day on here too that was mentioning a little bit of what you did. It's WAB was his kind of acronym, if you will: words, actions, and behaviors. And I love that, always that E plus R equals O. The event, and then your response is going to equal the outcome. And so that response, is crucial with everything that we're doing in life. And so continuing along this path, I know that you got to establish and create something on your end, after this trust part. And this is where you're going to dive in a little bit to the standards, which I think is really crucial, and then holding them accountable to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, there's got to be a vision, there's got to be a mission, got to be a purpose. And to have those when you're talking about, even with your staff, your administration, everybody's got to know what your standards are, what's your mission. And, and I think there's a lot of things that comes into that. And I think, we talk about it, and I know you gave us a great talk here the other day that I love about, sharing with words, the power of words, and having a word. And so when you start talking about your standards and the things that's very important to you in your culture is, we come up with a pyramid of success, which is very similar to John Wooden, what he had, but we create our own for what that is. We have the 4 pillars of our program, and what our standards are, and our 4 pillars are brotherhood, humility, integrity, and grit. Those are the 4 pillars we feel that are the basic building blocks of our foundation of who we are. And so what are the standards that kind of go with that? We talk about work ethic. We talk about unselfishness, trust, accountability. So those are the standards I think that you got to fight for every day in your program. And we talk about those. That isn't just being about those. It's also talking about those, so kids understand what those words represent, and also what those values mean day to day, just not in basketball, but in life. So we're trying to invest and add value to them, and we're doing that through these standards of what's expected. And everybody's got to know what's the blueprint, what's the plan, what are the standards. And I think we talk about that not only with our team, our staff, but also our administration. It's important that they build trust, knowing what you're doing every day as well. Being new, they don't know you. Everybody's watching you. Is how you're doing that with your messaging.
Yeah. And I would think, and just to make sure, I broke up a little bit. You said your 4th one, I believe, was grit, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And I think this would be, a time to interject with a lot of high school coaches. I know they're not aligned in the same. When you talk about administration for them, I would even think that's for parents in their situation. I think you know that it exists, that it's out there, and you can either kind of confront that and deal with it in a positive manner and establish that through them, or you can kind of let it go. And I see a lot of people that let it go, it just comes back to bite them,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we say it all the time. Once you've made a decision to not decide, then you've made a decision. All right. And that decision was not to do something. And that's a different value. That's a different standard. So it's important that we make those standards important every day, how we choose to respond to them as well.
Well, and with us kind of going into accountability now, I'd just be interested. I think a lot of people would, especially these coaches, how to hold people accountable. And even more importantly, I don't know if it's a part of kind of this 10-step process with you, but how do you hold yourself accountable through all this too?
Well, it's a great question. I think we could probably talk 45 minutes on accountability.
This is true.
And so, I think the biggest thing is not every kid's the same. We're not the military where we want to have 1,000 rules and everybody's the same. Obviously, team is about that. Even John Wooden and a lot of coaches, you got to go with what your philosophy is. Even John Wooden had different rules for different guys based on how he approached them. He didn't feel that all players were the same. So, but there were some things that were absolutes in your program. But I think accountability is having a consistent behavior and how do you discipline and how you continue to confront, praise, and obviously through it all, be consistent where kids build trust in you, where it all kind of comes in there. So accountability is just something that your staff and you are communicating on, is that there's going to be certain standards that you're going to hold people accountable to through the circumstances. And sometimes you have scenarios that come up that you got to find ways to hold kids accountable, without losing respect of the team, but also understanding the kids' circumstances that he may have been through some things that he's going through that you deal with on a human factor, that's a gut feeling that you may have to adjust to. And so I think that's important as we go through, but as kids, keep the respect for you from an accountability standpoint, that you're consistent with your ways. That's just huge for how you're building your program.
Yeah, I remember I was 25 years old when I was a head coach, and I thought I knew everything and knew nothing, but I remember somebody gave me a great bit of advice that I think you would agree with. And they told me that anytime there's a situation where I need to confront the culture and hold somebody accountable, do it as if it's the best player, because it's really easy to do it when it's maybe the 10th player or somebody, because I think they're always watching, they're always looking at, oh, Coach Jones, as soon as you leave that locker room, oh, they let Jimmy do this, but he let Bobby do this. I think that's important in what you're saying.
I agree 100%. And, Coach serves with me and a very wise guy. He's coached some of the best 12 Hall of Famers, been a part of world championship teams, so understanding cultures and how to deal with different personalities and knowing how to keep respect, but also confront, I think is vital as you build your program. Very vital.
Right. And that recaps the first 5 of the 10 steps, but you bring up a point that I would just love to get off the beating path 1 second here, and interested to hear your thoughts. You've been around, a lot of quality players, and you've been around a lot of quality people in your profession, and obviously you're one yourself. What separates the best? What's in their daily lives or routine that people that are listening here, if they don't have that a part of theirs right now, what can they do to continue to raise their level, if you will, and be like that?
Yeah, that's a great one. I think, I've wrote those down many times. We talk about the DNA of what's the best. Kevin Eastman, who I work with the Clippers, wrote a book, The Best of the Best.
Well, he was actually on here and talked about that. We had him a couple of days ago.
Oh, that's great. He's a great one,
Yeah, very good.
And it's a great scenario, but we've thought that way many times. I have too. What everybody always asks me, what makes Billy Donovan so great? Why is he so great? But I think, I got a few things. I think number one is any of those people that are really phenomenal, like that Billy Donovan is number one. I think it's an important thing. They value people. Number one, they value people, no matter who it is. As a kid, they look at that person as their son, how they approach it. They value the manager, they value the equipment manager, they value everybody. So it's not just the star. And so what makes them unique? And I think the second thing is just an incredible ability to be intentional with how they approach things. They have a vision and a plan. They just don't get up today and just say, hey, let's coach them up. Right. They came in with, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, and they're relentless in dealing with it. Any setbacks, they expect it. It doesn't shake them. They're unshakable, and they continue to be resilient through it. And I think they're always, the other thing I think it really stands out, Kevin's a lot like us, that's why we're on here, is they're always looking to grow, just a growth mindset. They're just, they always say leaders are readers. Leaders are always growing. The best I've been around, they're always trying to find a way to exceed expectations, how to get better, how to live in the moment, to be great. And there's a thirst for that that's just not like anyone else. And in doing that is something that doesn't rattle them, especially when it doesn't go well. And I think another one, which is I think about, is being able to equip people. Not only do they make themselves good, everybody around them, like myself, being an assistant with a Billy Donovan and Anthony Grant, they were always putting you in a situation to grow you. So when I had my chance to step out into the coaching world or the real world, I was equipped with what I had learned and what I'd seen, situational, because I was always being taught, not by saying, hey, watch this, but just by being the example, helped equip me for a lot of things that I got to see in that uphill battle in it. And I think that last but not least, probably thing I think of, and I've been asked this a bunch, is just an incredible resilience to continue to be positive through an attainable situations. Some days you just feel like this just can't happen. It's headed the wrong way. Snowball's coming down the mountain and it's building up steam. How do you stop that mountain with that snowball and push it right back up every day? How can you have that grit?
Yeah.
And grit's a big word that I use as one of my pillars, because, grit's being able to continue to do it, when it seems boring or it seems like it's not possible, but you find some kind of way to have that human spirit that's unique to be able to overcome it and be able to push through it. So those are some things I would say right off the top of my mind. And those are all integrity and character aspects, I think, of an individual that I've seen in the best that I've been able to be with players or coaches or leaders. And those are some qualities.
Yeah, Coach, that's great. I love that stuff. And I know as a parent, the faith and the family and all that's important in our household, but I try to preach resilience every day. That's a big one in life, and we're always failing. I know I make a lot of mistakes throughout the course of this. So as we finish here and we'll go through these 6 through 10 on this list, and I got a couple rapid fire for you at the end.
Okay.
I just kind of want to remind everybody of the first 5. The first one was evaluate. The second one was looking at that staff. Third one was building trust. Fourth one, creating standards. And then obviously we just talked about the fifth one in accountability. Kind of walk us through here the next couple ones here as we close up this build it part on your list. I love this list.
Yeah, develop competence, I think, is a interesting one. And what that is and developing competence, this is business as well as sports, is that we got to be able to equip. I was telling you, one of the things I felt like the best of the best was able to do, Kevin, is they have the ability to be able to equip you. And so I got to be able to develop competence in my players and my staff and my administration. Mm-hmm. So understand with that is I have to equip them with what the plan looks like. I got to give them the blueprint, the path. I got to give them the knowledge. I got to give them the skill set that's going to help equip them to be their best. So I think sometimes we think we just coach our players. You got to coach everybody. You got to coach your marketing department. You got to coach your managers. You got to coach your equipment guy. You got to coach your athletic director. And I'm not telling him what to do. I'm just telling him what we're trying to do. And this is how we got to get there. So in doing that, it's the same with our players. Like right now, we were just speaking when we got on here. It's an important time for me to be able to communicate right now. Important, more than ever. So I'm doing one-on-one calls, with our players, as well as a group chat. But one-on-one, it's just me sitting here, listening to you, but also I'm teaching you. I'm trying to add some value to you today, like me and you talking, and I am sharing, hey, I want you to think about these 3 things today as a player. I want you to think about this. How are you handling this, and that? How can you grow in this way? What is it, so I may have 5 or 6 questions where I make it interactive, but I'm trying to develop confidence in our people. And I think when you add value to people, it builds trust. So that goes back to the third thing. The next thing is just promote teamwork. And, that's an important thing, how we do that. A lot of people say, hey, we're going to be a great team. And, how do you do that? So I think team building exercises are huge. How we celebrate each other. Last night, one thing I'm doing, we're challenged now to be how to create teamwork and unity and build chemistry with 6 new players coming in. So we went Instagram Live at 8:00 last night, Monday, Tuesday, with the new recruits. So I'm on there interviewing them. So it starts out, I'm asking questions, tell me about your family. We're excited about you. I'm describing who you are. All the players are coming in and they're typing stuff and everybody's supporting each other. And the next night we got 3 more guys. And then we have Hatter Chalk Talk on Wednesday. And then I'm doing a coach's clinic with Coach Sir. Then we're doing player spotlight. We're constantly promoting guys and cheering guys on and support guys. So how do you promote teamwork? Number 8 is challenge. How do you challenge? And challenge means a lot of things. And challenges mean how do you take the team as a group and create expectations that are realistic? And how do you take individuals, staff, as well as players, and you challenge them. Okay. And so that can be a lot of things. So you challenge them, with their goals. You teach them how academically, how to be successful. What's the big picture goals? What is the vision? And then you challenge them how to grow themselves. Okay. So you're creating in a challenge, you're creating a vision. Okay. And the one number 6 was develop a competence. Okay. But I'm also developing a vision for you, for the group and individual. Number 9, it's important for all of us, staff and even the players. We talk about being the example, not only myself, but it doesn't matter what I know if I can't give it to you and share it and teach you how to be the example of what right looks like. And we talk about that a lot. So being the example is really just preaching what you're talking about. And also that goes back to how we build trust. Is someone, we're going to be able to impact somebody, all of us. And having influence is a leadership position, no matter where you're at. Somebody's following you. If you got somebody you're influencing, you're leading somebody. So be the example with what you do. And I think the last thing that we talk about is just recognition. And everybody starts thinking about, well, coach, what's recognition? But it's so important. And that's something I've seen, that we think even the guy that's the walk-on the team, or the manager, or the ops guy and the staff, we all want to be liked. We all want to be recognized. We all want to be celebrated. We all want to individually know that we matter. We all want to know what our role is. So recognition is important, how we recognize guys. Like we did Instagram Live last night, and well, we were giving recognition to the 5 and 6 new signees and their parents, and talking about them. And so recognition is very important, how we recognize our athletic department, our president, our school, our managers, everybody. They feel like, hey, we're a part of this family, and it matters here. It's our culture. Our culture is about love and trust and growing. And so I think that recognition is the energy that really puts it into your team, and the enthusiasm that really drives, I think, the whole culture with what you're doing.
Yeah, that's great, Coach. Once again, number 6, developing competence. 7 is promoting that teamwork. 8 is challenge. 9, be the example. And 10, recognition. So yeah, those are really good. And appreciate you allowing us to get inside your program a little bit, and the things that you've done over the course of time that have translated into success on and off the floor. As we wrap up here, I kind of somewhat of a rapid finish, if you will, 3-pointers. I know you like to shoot those, so this should be easy for you. But the first one, if people could learn something from this talk, or you'd want them to take away one thing and hold on to it, what would it be?
Yeah, well, I think most importantly is have a plan. I mean, what's your plan? A lot of people have goals, but I think goals are good. But I think more than anything is just having a vision of what you're trying to do, and then a commitment. A lot of people, you got to have a vision, and that's the plan. What's the 10 steps to build it? And then what's the commitment to do it? I mean, most of the time, if we don't perform something in 48 hours, it doesn't become a commitment. You got to jump into it and be committed to what's the process of getting it done. So I think that's a huge thing for us right now, even the time we're in. Kevin, right now is, what are we doing with our time? The greatest gift we got right now is our time right now. Family, grow yourself with faith, grow your team, whatever your profession is. It's a great time to reflect, evaluate, and refocus and reset, all right, during this time, and really establish yourself with the next move in your life.
Yeah, good stuff. Second one would be, then this is to hold me accountable here. If you could have stepped into my shoes for this today, what would have you asked yourself that I didn't ask you today?
Oh, wow. Good question. Geez. Yeah, I think a lot of times is, the question that I would say probably with me is, how do you continually, win the day every day? I think, how do you approach your day? Because, it's kind of like being on that airplane. When that thing's turbulence is bad and everything's coming down, that oxygen mask comes down, and you got to put it on first. So it really starts with yourself. And when you're in a leadership position, you got to be able to equip yourself every day. What I'm learning is not only to help myself, but to be able to help everybody else I'm leading, my family, my friends, my team, my staff. There's a lot of people dependent on you. So with that every day, how am I taking care of my health? How am I eating? How am I sleeping? How am I preparing? How am I building my energy up? What am I putting my time towards? What am I putting my focus towards? So I think it's so important to equip myself every day to be able to be my best for everybody else, because I can't grow others if I don't grow myself. So that's probably a question I'm always intrigued about other people, how they do it, because that's what I think about every day when I wake up.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. And then finally, which you've given us a ton of this already, but maybe something in closing, I call this good stuff, just something I've said a lot over the years. And with it being named that, and especially maybe in this time or just in general, what's some good stuff here you can close us with today?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of good stuff. I think the biggest thing, Kevin, is right now is, as we know, fear's a liar. We talk about that all the time. I think today, even our kids, our family, is I kind of look at this as a time that a lot of people saying, Coach, how you handling all this time, and everybody's home, and a lot of coaches not used to being home all the time with their families. We're used to being on the road. We're used to being gone, but I'm the different. I really love my time here. I think if you got a family at home and or if it's not, if you're single, you should be reaching out and building relationships right now. This is a time for you to be calling and reflecting. Everybody's home. Everybody's looking to speak to somebody. And I think that to take time to reinvest into your family, get to know your kids, tell them you love them, tell them you care about them, listen to them. Go do something with them every day. I make an appointment every day with my son, my two daughters, and my wife, and I do something every day. And I'm here. I'm able to build some momentum and consistency. It's a time for us to, if this door opens back up here in another week and we're allowed to be out living our life, we'll have a lot of regret if we haven't taken advantage of this time to connect and build with our families right now and the people that's been in our life that love us. We're growing ourselves in another way with the time we have. We'll have a lot of regret because of the moments that we've had during this time.
No, amen to that. Hey, I know you're a great follow on Twitter. Do you mind telling our listeners kind of where they can find you on there, or maybe any other avenues, social media, internet, any of that you'd want them to know about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm at Donnie Jones. I'm verified there on Twitter. You can see me on there. If you just put at Donnie Jones, I'll pop right up. And then on Instagram, I'm at Coach Donnie Jones on Instagram. You can find me on both those. At Donnie Jones on LinkedIn as well. And you can catch me on all three of those sites pretty simply.
All right, great. Well, I appreciate you taking time today, especially away from your family and these other things like you talk about. Congrats on the recent success, Donnie. I'm looking forward to staying in touch. I know this year is just fun to check in as I followed on Twitter to see, just the program continue to build and get better. There's no doubt in my mind the wins are going to keep coming. I'm rooting for you, and I know with I guess more importantly, due to your heart and your leadership skills and this culture that you've created, I know these young men are going to be impacted not only just as basketball players but human beings, and I think that's extremely important. And I have the utmost respect in how you go about doing that. So thank you once again.
Yeah, well, no, I appreciate you, Kevin. Thank you for all you're doing, and I'm a believer in you as well, and how you're impacting, what you represent, your leadership. So, keep leading. We need more people like you out here, especially during this time when we all need encouragement, and we all need someone to follow every day that can help grow us. So we appreciate you. Appreciate your friendship.
Thank you. And I guess as our listeners know by now, I think it's one thing to listen to this message, and it's another thing to put it into action and apply it. So that's all for today. And until next time, good stuff.